Welcome back to the European Challenger Series. It's almost time to dive into our second game between Copenhagen Wolves and Millenium. First game, pretty good by Millenium so far. There was a stall out as Copenhagen Wolves were able to stop them for a while, but then Millenium just kind of found the opening and won the game.
Yeah, just kind of won the
game. That was the TLDR.
Yeah, if you didn't catch any of it. It was another impressive game by Millenium once it opened up. There was a period of time where I was wondering if they would struggle, just from the fact that they needed to get an engage. Like, if they didn't get any of those engages, I don't think that that's an easy game to win. You end up in like the ARAM situation and then the Baron dance situation, and it's like all of these things that take a long time. But thankfully they had Alistair and a Poppy.
Yes.
So
if
like,
you wanted
engage.
Well, you got it, yeah. That was a very intense point. There was music playing underneath you, so I was getting really into it.
It's okay. We can be hype here.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, so I just want to see what happens in the next champion select, because like if they just go for a similar composition, they're probably going to repeat. Like when you had the top lane matchup, like Wicked was ahead in farm, but it's difficult to quantify like a person who has more pressure than you and more trading potential than you, because even though they have less CS, they're able to push you away. They can make plays on you. They can set you up for the jungler. They can just like dive and roam and whatever. So it's kind of difficult to quantify that. But Kaze had whatever it was,
and that's the deceptive thing, though, right? Is Lissandra? It's just like, well, she's going to be higher on farm. She queues the wave. She gets free abilities every so often. You know, it's very easy to farm with Alessandra, even from somewhat distance behind. But it was those points, as you're talking about, when Wicked steps up to the wave and it's too far past his turret. That's when Kaze goes straight through the minion wave into a cannon setup in the back and just goes, oh, I'm just going to trade on you because I've already killed you once and this is how this is going to go. So for the next like 20 minutes, Wicked's like, yeah, I don't want to, I'm not going anywhere near Kaze. This is not a place I want to be.
No, like one time he had just ult him. It was just like, he just came to one, it was like, well, I got to burn this now because there's a Poppy on me. And that's like the depressing thing I was talking about. Like once a Poppy gets on you, you're not running away unless you burn like so much on him. And speaking of the Poppy, we do have a replay. Is the mid lane fight where Kaze just goes ham and it's the 1v3 where he just like killed everyone by himself.
Literally everybody at this point. I mean, Sunuksalot is kind of hopefully blocking just in case Storm wants to come around behind him. But at this point, even after the flank from Wicked, which was a good flank to begin with, then the Poppy shows up, brings the hammer down. Two people go into the sky, and from there, I mean, Kaze is so tanky. These turret shots are doing hardly anything to him. Like, this is like the 4th, 5th turret shot. Not even phased.
It truly was hammer time. Kaze bringing down the hammer in that one. But yeah, Poppy, good champion. I did say at the start, I was like, not sure if Poppy can carry this one. And then like...
You always think that. You always think that. That's why you got to ban Poppy in solo queue.
Yes.
Okay, like.
Okay. So if you have like a tank composition against Poppy, it doesn't do that horrific amount of damage, because what the problem there is like you had Alessandro, you had a squishy backline, you had the Victor, your jungle was a Lee's, like
she was
building a little bit of tank elite, but didn't have that many resistances. Yes, went for the strength of ages, but does not have the same resistances. If you went ham on like a Rek'Sai and just built resistance on him, like Elise is going to be a little bit squishier just by design. So, I'm going to use that point to back up what I said at the start of the game, despite Kaze killing everybody.
Well,
so pick a tank composition if this happens to you.
Hindsight's 2020. So at the end of Champion Select, when you're running Lissandra, Victor, Elise, you should pick a tank setup to deal with the Poppy.
That's dodge.
I like it. That's some good advice. Go back in time and fix.
There you go. Or ban the Poppy. That's also good, which was your suggestion.
Well, I think they should ban the Poppy, to be honest. Millenium could first pick the Poppy if it's available. I wonder, we obviously have 5 more bans to go before we can actually start looking at it. But what I mean is that if you don't ban it, it is a pick that could be in that first spot. It's not just like a champion like Braum.
Yeah.
Almost no one first picks, although it was first picked in LCS once.
It was.
We looked at and were like, don't agree with that.
Not sure about that one. Yeah.
Was it Giants?
I think it was, yeah, because they had that curious draft. In fact, they have a lot of curious drafts, but...
It may have been. It was one of the teams that's on the bottom half of the table, at least.
I think it was Giants. Gangplank will be banned on red side. Corki ran over, by the way. Corki on red side also banned away. Kindred will be the next one from Millenium. They banned that last game, but these are just like all meta picks right now, like just the OP list, which is just being banned away. And just looking for the last two.
Kalista ban probably coming up from Wolves, I would imagine. Oh, maybe Millenium, because they feel confident in the 2v2 anyway. Ooh,
Lucian. Okay,
that's a different one. So normally we'd see the Kalista banned here. So Wolves. So what this is doing is Wolves have to ban Kalista now, otherwise Millenium first pick it. and Millenium just auto-win the 2v2. So what Millenium is saying is, fight us on our second tier AD carries. And Hans Sama goes, well, I've got Vayne and Draven.
Yeah.
And Misfortune.
What have you got?
Fight me.
Yeah.
You better have something.
He could go like the Forgiven route now, where he went Caitlyn, because this exact situation happened to Forgiven, where they banned Lucian, banned Corki, banned Kalista, and it was like, well, Caitlyn.
Yeah, he goes, I'm Forgiven.
Yes. I can do this.
This happened to me this time last year around IEM Katowice.
Yeah.
And, SK fell apart because of it, so I went out and played other champions. Like, that's what happened.
The Forgiven story. But he was very good on that. He actually goes for a very greedy build where he maxes E after Q, so like doesn't even put a point in trap, and then does like a little bit later, and then maxes it last.
That doesn't surprise me.
No, because like the entirety of NA goes for trap second. So yeah, we may have a Caitlyn here. Maybe Pano will bust out something crazy. But Graves was the first pickup. Kind of not really a surprise here.
Yep, first pick into the jungle leaves what is... Morgana is available. Wolves could look to take that away if they don't want the Trundle.
Yep.
They played Braum in the last game for support. And Wicked did lock in the Poppy as well.
Okay.
So taking it away, now we get to see what Kaze would play into the Poppy. Commonly, we have seen a whole bunch of Fiora, but it takes time for Fiora actually to get into the situation where you can out-duel a Poppy. Takes, that third item, roughly. Second, third item is where you can actually start to fight her.
Yeah, just because of her kit, in the one-on-one, Poppy just generally wins that before you itemize because, well, lunge gets blocked if you time it perfectly with W. Ultimate is really annoying because it's all like instant CC, it's difficult to riposte. You can't see like a wind-up, so... And like melee range, there's nothing really you can do unless you're a god and can just see the future. Ooh, okay. Lulu and Misfortune picked up for Millenium.
That's an interesting one, because normally you'd see a Lulu with something that, not that requires more protection, because Misfortune is still fairly low mobility, but normally you'll see it with something that scales better than a Misfortune does.
Right.
MF has very good damage, especially in team fights like we saw in the last game, but generally a lot of it comes from her ability to just hit multiple targets, either with her ultimate or with just that love tap passive. So interesting that they want to run from, I would assume, the mid lane with the Lulu. I don't feel like Lulu into Poppy is a matchup that I'd really want to take all that much, just from Poppy's damage output alone. Like, Lulu should do okay, but I just think it's not a matchup that you're ever going to win.
I don't think Lulu ever dies in that matchup because you polymorph as soon as she comes in, and then you don't have a dash, so you just run away.
But
and you zone them with Glyph-Lance.
At the same time, I don't think that's a lane that you can control.
No.
Like,
certainly not. But you don't die, so
well,
good.
That's a bonus.
Yes. Nidalee and Caitlyn both locked in.
Okay.
So yeah, going to Forgiven route this one, so we can expand on that one later. Nidalee also picked up for the jungle, so more like kind of siegey right here, with like the Braum putting up the shield and then pushing with Caitlyn long range to siege towers and a Nidalee poke. Then front line with Poppy as well. I wonder what they pick up last, like maybe like a Wake Clary mid, something like that.
Possibly. At this point, I'm looking over at Millenium's comp. What is it we're looking for? We're looking for support. Unless that Lulu is going to support, but I don't think so. We've only seen that in... God, I saw it the other day on a... It wasn't NALCS. Ah, it was... came after NALCS. The Collegiate. Yeah, they were playing Lulu in support. So I don't think we're going to see that. It is... Oh, of course, Masterworks. Morgana is up. Of course. I mean, it's his favorite champion. Or at least, one of.
Yeah. I want to see him play more Thresh, but like whenever he has the choice, he always goes Alistar or Morgana over it, so...
I mean, there is a reason.
Yes, but I want to see like the cool plays that he brings out. Even if it loses in the game, I still want to see it. But yes, there are reasons. Morgana with Lulu here, like you just put it on someone who's jumping into the front lines and they just simply refuse to die, so... Yes.
Yes.
Fiora also picked up onto Kaze, so I do actually get to see him on the carry this time. We see him a lot of time Kench and Poppy, so now we see on something that is like a carry.
So another wave clear mid laner, or the same wave clear mid laner for Soren. No real surprises there when it comes to a mid lane matchup. We've now got Lulu into the Victor, so good luck out pushing that Victor without an engage. This time, no real hard engage from Millenium. No Alistar or anything like that. Looking at it, they actually banned it out themselves. So that's one thing we didn't really talk about is Millenium weren't confident enough to first pick the Alistar, or at least didn't want to hinder themselves that much and give over other picks to Wolves. So they actually banned it out. That is going to reduce their engage potential significantly. And the Wolves on the other side, they've got a Braum, they've got a Victor, they've got a Caitlyn. Those are all champions that you don't really want to try and engage into without some kind of massive ultimate.
That's true. If they get engaged on, it's almost better for Millenium in the setup, but it's kind of... Yeah, it's odd because like it's kind of coming in from like a binding from Masterwork or something. Like it's kind of difficult to make that happen. Either way, since this split has been the most competitive that we've seen so far in Challenger, we've had plenty of big plays coming out from our team. So this week, our play comes from Rank R, who tweeted, "A pentakill for Pinoy helps Copenhagen Wolves secure Game 1 against Inspire Esports. So this is your Week 2 Challenger big play." And CosQ is taking so much damage from the Lucian, though. The culling is used and jukes him away. Maybe he can get the kill. Stops the ultimate with the 1v2, the triple, the quadra kill in for Pinoy. Can he make it the penta?
Oh,
he's going up against Woolite. Goes for the one-on-one. Woolite, he gets it. He shuts him down for the pentakill.
Holy pentakill. I thought I was going to say something else there.
Yeah, me too. Well, you didn't,
Close.
So yeah, hashtag saved. But no, that was good. That was actually really cool to see. And as you mentioned earlier, he held the heal. So
yeah. And went through a Hex Drinker.
It
may have even been a more. I didn't catch it there, but.
Well, if you spot a big play going from these plays, make sure to tweet at us from with the hashtag CSBigPlays, and your tweet could make the broadcast just like Rank R's. And yeah, I want to see more big plays. We actually had quite a lot so far, so I think it's kind of easy, this split. Because last split, it was like, we've just followed Sencooks around, and he'll make like, he'll just make a play a game, and then it's just like, tweet that one in. Yeah.
Well, he even started doing that in the LCS as well with his LeBlanc plays. But nevertheless, we are getting ready to head into Game 2. Millennium do lead this series 1-0 in a best of 2. So get on Twitter. Make sure you use those hashtags MILWin or hashtag CWWin. We'll check up on those as we get through the game.
Nailed it. All right,
Got it.
It's a game. Millennium and Copenhagen Wolves, second game of this one, swapping up the sides in this best of 2. Millennium currently 1 up in this one. And opening up the game, there's not too much that's out of the ordinary. Top laners both going for the potions, so sometimes you'll see Fiora go for Doran's blades, so maybe a bit of a change there, but ultimately not that big of a difference in the early game. Looks like Hanso got some damage onto Pinoy though. Won't really matter because it's so early on into the game.
So this isn't really an in-game thing, but one thing I noticed
Why are you saying
Millennium...
in a game then?
Well, no, it is.
Okay.
One thing I noticed Millennium didn't really do in the last game was BM. Because the last 2 series, they have been pretty BM when they've got ahead. Just, throwing out the emote spam. Yep. As we said, we're on Tournament Realms, so sadly no Mastery emote. Can't get that on here, I'm afraid. Or at least there's no solo queue to get games. You could just play a whole bunch of queue up for normals. Just like, but for this week of Challenger, I've got to get rank 5 Mastery on Bobby so I can emote spam. But
probably worth. But yeah, you're totally right. We didn't see it. Mainly, Dioko is like one of the big offenders on that one, and didn't do it once. Maybe that's a sign of them concentrating more
possibly
against Copenhagen Wolves, because that first game was more intense than many of the other games that they've had. It definitely stalled out for a little bit.
I think also when you take into account that Troven was like 4-1, which did have a little bit of an impact on exactly what was going on with the Wolves. When it came to who had the damage, who was able to do what in fights, because Troven was really tanky, sure, but it wasn't helping the Wolves win that game at all. It was nice, but maybe would have liked to kill on Wicked or a kill on Soren.
That would have been nice, yes. Bottom lane was being poked in by Pinoy. Top lane is just trading back and forth. I really like that our observers were following the early route from Troven. Because he's going for the full clear. That. Yeah, and he's placing down the traps tactically at the start of the game, which allows you to go for those camps and continuously reset. And because the way Nidalee jungle works and you reset your auto attacks and animation cancel a bunch with your abilities, mainly out of Cougar form, you clear the jungle exceptionally quickly, but you have to set them up and kill the camps in a very specific way. Troven missed one of the traps, or rather one of the small minions jumped in an awkward place for him, so he got it a little slower, but this is nitpicky. This is like speedrunning the jungle and missing a couple frames type thing.
So do we donate to save the animals in the jungle, or
I'm not sure actually?
Because I don't think you can save George the Suicide Frog, unfortunately.
No.
That one's not savable. But we'll I guess hashtag save the animals.
Yeah, I think you kill the animals for the frames here, but you definitely get it for the gold. 70 gold from that Squirtle Crab. Whew. So killing the animals right in this one. Pinoy taking a bit of damage, but right now Pinoy is getting so much damage onto his bottom lane from Handsama and Masterwork. Top lane just going head to head. Wicked is getting the better of this trade for now, but now Kaze with the follow-up.
No.
Oh.
Here's the changes to Fiora in action. You can see that Kaze was able to predict the timing of the Vital showing up on the bottom side. It got normalized this patch, so it'll either be top or bottom on one side and then alternate, so it can never be on the same side twice. So you can't get RNG'd out of trades. It gives the better Fiora players the ability to predict trades incredibly effectively.
The way to think about it is like if you're on red side, then the upper and then the one towards like east are the ones where it alternates, and then to the bottom right. So it's kind of like you just look at the map and that's where it can spawn. But yes, it means that people like Kaze is able to predict, and as soon as it comes up, instantly proc the Vital. It does mean that you can like play around it in the same way. But it just means like the people who've been playing a lot of Fiora versus like a Wicked who doesn't play a lot of Fiora, like you have the slight edge in the current patch until people catch up.
Yeah, it will just take some adjustment. Kaze caught out on the other side, but he's got his jungler around anyway. Bottom lane though, it's going differently from what we've seen in the last few games for Millenium. Not winning this 2v2 because you're playing Misfortune into Caitlyn, which, if you've ever tried to do, is not an easy one. Troven going mid lane, though.
Well, pretty jumps away. Takedown comes out from Troven, and he'll actually flash out. So, takes a bit of damage, but ultimately flash for flash.
Yeah, Troven thought he may have been able to get the kill there, but didn't follow up with an extra auto. Couldn't get it to proc the extra damage that he was going to get. So, a little bit unfortunate for himself there.
Teleport now coming in from Pretty, just holding back one of those minions. And not too much. So Soren has a slight lead in the mid lane. There's a couple minions going towards Pretty, so we'll even up just a little. Bot lane, Pinoy opts towards the pickaxe on his first back. I assume to keep up the pressure that he's been accumulating so far in the early game, so he can continue to stay ahead of Handsama, who went back and went for the longsword. So that will give him that in that sense, but usually you go back and pick up the BF sword for the big spike, but to keep up the pressure in lane, it kind of makes sense in this scenario.
Yeah, Pinoy was about 100, 150 gold short of the BF sword, so he actually wasn't able to go it. So he had to make the decision there of does he back for the timing, or does he back, or does he stay in lane greedily and continue to try and farm his way up. So just a conscious choice on his part. Didn't really have to back, but I guess would be interesting to check if he was low on mana or something. I'm going to go back and double check, actually. Yeah, he was low on mana. Wanted to just replenish his potions. All that stuff that's good for laning.
Top lane, Kaze jumps in. Riposte comes out. Nothing really to riposte other than the slow. And it is level 6, though, over Wicked, who will be hitting level 6 very shortly. So Kaze, if there's a chance for him to all-in Wicked, it is kind of now. Unfortunately, the wave is pushing into tower, so not going to happen at this very instant. Joko is in the upper jungle, so if he wants to contest, there's the possibility. However, he is Graves, so he clears pink wards very, very slowly.
I love it how you just get full vision of the Graves. Well, he's clearing our pink ward.
He's going to be there for 20 seconds.
Oh, it's so frustrating to do. It's the same now, by the way, with Jhin. Clearing a pink ward is frustrating because you only get 4 shots.
Yeah, so it's like a 1. It's like, no!
Yeah. Oh, however, Lulu's caught on the other side. What I was thinking was maybe if, it would be OP if his 4th shot, double shot award, because then he'd only take 4, so you can't normalize it to have somewhere in the middle, but it is very frustrating. Maybe if it, didn't consume the crit or something like that, might be
But
fun,
then you could just hit wards and be turn up into a lane, it's like, well, I have a crit
that's
edge,
true.
you know?
That's actually really true. I remember when...
look at that binding onto Pinoy, and now the follow-up from Handsama. Nuslot blocks it with Unbreakable, but that was such a sick binding from Masterwork. I actually don't know how he finds these bindings. I don't think they're possible to hit, and then he hits them.
Yeah, he hit 2 of them in lane last week to win the 2 versus 2. And that was with the Vayne lane as well. Troven is in this bottom lane. Masterwork smells something's up, but has been forced out by Pinoy. Good flash out from Masterwork.
In this case, shouldn't have followed his nose into the bush, where Troven was there.
But what it does give is Joko the ability to go topside now and take away a buff. So is there, just on the respawn timing from Copenhagen Wolves' red buff, they already know they're winning at this topside duel against Wicked, so it's not like he can come across and clear. The only person they've got to be careful of is Victor roaming out. And that hasn't happened just yet.
Kaze, he had an opportunity to go for a Vital, and Wicked actually reads it out there. Because this matchup is really interesting, Poppy versus Fiora, because as Fiora you have to predict Poppy's CC spells to use Riposte, but if you line yourself up against the wall, Poppy will almost certainly go onto you. So you can line up the Riposte. Now Joko comes in, the flash comes out from Wicked and keep his verdict. He'll probably let it just time out.
Or not.
Or not, okay. Usually in that situation you'll let it time out so you get the extra cooldown reduction so you can use it in the future, rather than just burning it and then wasting the cooldown for basically nothing.
So the real key thing with this matchup that ultimately ends up giving Fiora the edge, past the scaling and all that goodness, is the fact that Steadfast Presence has like a 20-second cooldown. Right now it's 22 seconds, and Fiora's lunge is only 10 seconds, and that has another rank before it goes down again. So it just means that you can never Steadfast Presence every lunge. So you can do it the first time, and then try and run away, maybe get your ult off and defer the aggression from Kaze, but some point, somewhere, somehow, Fiora is going to lunge on you and get that first Vital.
Yeah, it's an inevitability. Inevitability. It's gonna happen.
Inevitable.
It's gonna happen in the future.
Inevitable. Oh dear. Well, it was inevitable that was going to happen at some point, and that's the Rift Herald going over to Joko. Troven gets a pink ward for his troubles, but he may actually be forced away by Joko here. Ooh, engage out of the bush from Masterwork.
Forces the flash from Panoy. Ultimate from Flash, that's basically it, and will block the ace in the hole. Nuxalot gets CC'd up with
Finds another binding.
Of course, I mean, well, why not? Bot lane is getting heavily out CS though. Panoy is definitely ahead of Hansama, but it's not a crushing difference. It has resulted in basically the difference between a pickaxe over a longsword before he goes back, so he has more gold to spend.
Something we haven't touched on yet that just kind of showed itself is that Pretty has teleport in this game as well. Not running any kind of defensive or aggressive summoners, just going for that utility of teleport. Allows Millenium now to slow down any kind of multi-lane pushes that Wolves were looking for. Problem is, Wolves probably weren't looking to do that all that much outside of Wicked. It now, however, gives them the ability to defer Wicked's push twice with a teleport to his once. So it means if Wicked ever shows on a side lane and doesn't have his TP, and either Lulu or Fiora's there with theirs, they just kind of laugh and start a fight the other side of the map, which we highlighted could be difficult without that primary engage of Alistar, but a binding from Masterwork seems to be on the cards just in general this game as another one lands.
Like, yeah, I mean, when you have a Morgana player who reliably hits bindings, I guess you don't need the Alistar, but yeah, it's...
I still prefer the Alistar.
Yes,
but
I mean, it's a little more reliable as Masterwork takes all of the poke. Joko ends up winning the one-on-one battle with Dragon. Has gone back to base, picks up the Warrior enchant. And this game, we have the Runic Echoes going on to Nidalee. Don't really see Nidalee's go for Strength of the Ages all that often, just want the extra early AP. Most junglers also like to go for Assassin on AP jungle specifically, so you go for those trades. Doesn't help you in ganks, but does help you dueling the enemy jungle.
Hansama rightfully, you know,
Like
understanding the damage from Pinoy. Got it.
That feels bad.
Yeah, I mean, Troven kind of knew he was getting that. Now he engages on Pretty.
And Pretty pops his ultimate and will return with a bit of damage with Glitter Lance, and Soren zones him away with the Death Laser.
Ooh, Hansama actually stayed bottom lane.
He missed the binding.
Hit. Now he's going to get punished for it. Oh, Sunuxalot. There's so many options he has.
Oh, he chooses the wrong door, and Panoy will take a bunch of damage. Master will jump back in and use the Soul Shackles. Shouldn't get the stun here, but he does get it on Nuxalot. That's First Blood. Hansama responds with one of his own. Both AD carries pick one up, and now Troven coming out. Nuxalot tries to get a concussive blows, finds it with the Troven, jumping in with Flash, and picks up the kill using Takedown. 2-for-1 over to Copenhagen Wolves.
Good job that Troven showed up, otherwise that was a big blunder from the Wolves in how they engaged that. I mean, Sunuxalot had so many options there. He could have moved out of the bush, tried to use Winter's Bite to kind of soak the Black Shield up first, then ult on a target that doesn't have the Black Shield on. He actually just stepped out and was like, hey, I'm ulting you. Better hope you don't have Black Shield available that you haven't used anytime soon. A really weird engage, but good job that Troven was here. Like, this was Sunuk walking out of the bush, then getting it. Then the binding landing on Pinoy was exactly what Masterwork is looking to do in every one of these fights. It's just lock down the Caitlyn, stop her from doing much. So Hans Sama at this point has the flash available, but doesn't actually flash out. I think he's saving it there in case a spear comes, that he can just dodge it. Didn't predict the flash W from Nidalee, and at that point was too focused on the brawl.
Well, Joko may be caught out here. Wicked is closing in. And misses to keep his verdict massively. That was like at least a second. Troven drops lower. Pretty is dropping even lower. Has the ultimate very shortly. Might be able to assist Kazi and Joko as they make their way out of the jungle. Meanwhile, Masterwork roams up from the bottom lane to also provide his assistance. And Pretty going with the Catalyst. Once he levels up, we'll get some of that health back. The red buff has been picked up by Troven.
Okay. Let's take a moment, settle, and we're back to Masterwork in the bottom lane.
Okay, Masterwork going down here, clearing out this pink ward. I was like a psychologist,
Stop for a sec. Kaze is going aggressive on Wicked. I'll take the play-by-play for now.
Perfect.
Don't worry.
We'll swap.
Pretty's picked up the blue buff. He's going back mid lane. You really don't want me play-by-playing for too long on this game, but okay. Oh, that binding again. Like, come on.
Nukes a lot. Does not land his own Winter's Bite, but Troven's here. Big spear onto Masterwork and the lockdown. Ace in the hole for the long-range snipe. Hans Sama has to jump away, and Troven lands another Q. Does not choose to follow up on it, though.
Hans Sama was like, well, if you've taken one tower shot, you may engage further on me and take another, so I'm just going to E myself here.
Yeah.
Some people look at that and be like, best make it rain ever. No, it was actually fine. Yes. It's actually just to get that slow and the extra damage. Went to Troven there and did the red buff. So
very close.
Was close. Soren maybe looking to engage on Pretty. Had that big burst of movement speed off the Q. That wasn't to be.
No, it was not. That ward was also not to be. And Troven really wants this one. Nice sidestep by Pretty, but Nuxalot being here may deter them. It should, yeah, 1-for-1 in terms of wards, but it was a Trinket versus a Tracker's Knife ward versus a Pink ward.
Yep.
And now just setting up for a potential dragon in the future. Pick up the Scuttle Crab, and Troven goes onto his blue buff. So not too much happening here. In terms of the whole game in general, 3-1, Copenhagen Wolves are leading this game. They were leading the last game very slightly for a little while before Millenium caught up and won. So they were winning up until they lost.
Yeah, they were. But in this game, one thing I want to kind of look at, Kaze, is going for the, I'm going to just try and win every trade regardless of how tanky I am build with the Ravenous Hydra, not opting for the Titanic Hydra that we've started seeing first on Fiora a couple of times in the EU LCS, something that started coming up the last couple of weeks. So just interesting, he's like, well, you're Poppy, you can deal a decent amount of damage, but I'm just going to lifesteal all of it back and have that faster push as well with the clear from the Tiamat active. Not quite the same as the, sorry, well, Tiamat's in both. The Hydra active as opposed to the Titanic Hydra.
Titanic Hydra is technically worse for Fiora because it gives you an auto attack reset, but it does not combo and cancel animations, which you really want. Mid lane, Nuxalot has been CC'd up by the binding. Not quite enough damage. Soren does not land the ultimate and just gets the residual damage. Wicked in this 1-on-1 against Kaze. Should be able to trade back a little bit of damage. Misses the riposte. Keeper's verdict comes out. Kaze is 1-on-1 lands him up for the E, and now pops the ultimate. We'll be able to get a bunch of health back. Jukes backwards and not proccing another Vital. Maybe the right decision, but it has put Wicked on the run. Mid lane, Joko dropping low, pops the ultimate just for the knockback it gives.
Oh, Troven's going top. That could be a dead...
He parries the takedown
very well.
Oh, and now he jumps after Troven. He gets knocked back by Wicked, but Kaze's still on the hunt. He's already used Lunge and does not have enough movement speed. Pretty even came with the Whimsy. but it was just not enough.
Yeah, that was one of the teleports he used there from Millenium. They threw a lot to try and get that engage to work properly, but you can see just how much damage Kaze has on this Fiora. Once again, trying to carry Millenium's solo lane effectively, and Millenium right now just are behind in this game. Copenhagen Wolves are ahead, but that is going to turn around as this tower falls.
Yeah, tower goes down and equal gold, exactly. And now Dragon goes over to Millenium. This will be their second one of the game. Last game, they also controlled the Dragons, but ultimately did not really matter. Hansam and Joko being locked into the pit. This is a big engage by Nuxalot. The Glacial Fissure comes out. That was the Dragon going over to Hansammer. I actually think that was the E, the Make It Rain, after he died. Actually picked that up.
Wow,
yeah.
The posthumous award.
Well, he got it. Trovan will get out of there.
But we're starting to see Pinoy come online with his damage now. Still a while away, but he is 3-1. Has that rapid fire cannon. So what we're going to have to look out for is the same thing that Fnatic used in their game. I believe it was against Elements this past week, where it was like, well, we've got this Caitlyn that's going to hit you from like 1300, and you're probably just going to die against it because you get that headshot extra as well. Like, man, it's so difficult when a Caitlyn gets like that 4th item, and then, well, she's just going to wreck everything.
She is. And Pinoy, I liked how he itemized. He only just completed the Infinity Edge now. He went for the components into Rapid Fire Cannon and then using that as a multiplier to complete his Infinity Edge. That is the optimal way. It gives you a nice kind of, instead of an instant spike, you actually gradually go up in terms of your power. So it's just slightly more efficient in terms of itemization. So if you do that in solo queue, make sure to build BF Sword and Pickaxe, and then go for your Rapid Fire Cannon, and then finish the Infinity Edge. What does that mean?
That's just me going like, I'm just going to build like 4 Infinity Edges. Don't worry.
The Jhin build.
The Jhin build. Oh, I hope we see some Jhin. Even though nobody's doing that at the moment because it's highly inefficient. Well, like, if this game goes to 50 minutes, I'm going to one-shot whatever I touch.
Yeah, like Gypsy was in like a 70-minute game. Was like, this is the perfect item build. It was like, well, yes.
Of course.
If you have all the gold to spend.
This is a bit of a troublesome situation now as Trovan is looking for the bottom lane. Gank does get the spear. Oh, that could be a dead Kaze.
Heroic charge. Kaze with the riposte slows down Trovan. That's enough damage, and now he's got the healing pretty with the ultimate Kaze as well. He'll be surviving just long enough. Dragged into the gravity field, but now trading onto Wicked, who has been polymorphed and is slowed down. Joko trying to finish off the backline. He's also taken out. Top lane Pinoy. Oh, the Piltover actually finishes them off, and then it's 1-on-2. It is shut down by Masterwork. The red buff is not enough as he pops a potion to stay alive. A 1-for-1 in the top lane, and then 2-on-1 over to Pinoy.
All the meanwhile, I think Millenium are just going to come out that little bit further ahead from that. I believe they get shut down gold from Pinoy going to their team there, as Pinoy hadn't died since his kill streak. At that point, 4-2 on that Caitlyn. Gives them the extra gold. They get the fight in the bottom side, which, by the way, Kaze got out of alive. Just with enough time from Pretty shielding, using the Whimsy on him to get that extra dash. So this is the bottom lane fight again. Watch for how Pretty is moving across the map. He knows Soren's going to beat him there, but all they have to do is kill Trovan, and they get the heal to come back in there. Pretty even flashes in to get in range to keep Kaze alive that little bit faster. From there, it's just the return damage from Millenium, and this is where we jumped up to the top side, so we didn't catch the end of that fight. Pinoy just, man, between that ignite from Morgana and the pool, a lot of damage.
Is a lot of damage. That's what a 2-item AD carry does against a 1.5-item AD carry. The spike you get from 2 items is really, really big on particular champions like Caitlyn. And then you hit like another spike in a couple items time. Like, knowing how to play around your spikes as an ADC and just any champion in general versus other champions is such a big deal in League of Legends and is sometimes overlooked. It
really is. That's really where one of those big differences comes. You know, we were talking to Vanda on a different topic here on the LCS about support itemization. Very quickly to touch on it, we've got the Frost Queen's claim actually completed by Masterwork because they're relying on these solo catches, like potentially this one going a bit away from them.
Ultimate in from Joko, finish the Steric's Gauge, and that'll be giving him an extra bit of survivability, but Pinoy should be able to finish him off here with the last auto, like the headshot coming out of the bush, but Masterwork now coming in, turning it around. Kaze should be able to finish off Pinoy as well. Comes in with the last Piltover Peacemaker onto Hansammer, is ultimately not going to take him out, and Joko with the 1-for-2 as he goes down, taking out Pinoy and Nuxalot. So Millenium catching up and getting ahead in this game, over 3,000 gold ahead of Copenhagen Wolves now.
Oh, they got another binding, but this one they can't do too much from, but it's slowing down Copenhagen Wolves from getting to this turret. Keeper's Verdict was just used.
Yeah, it was used on just one caster minion. Troven will be backing off, and the tower is dead. They actually just had that tanked up by Kaze, so the minions are staying alive. And that's an inner turret taken away. This is quickly snowballed out of control.
And you can see what Millenium are having to do here, or at least trying to, and it's working for them, is the same thing they did against Renegades Banditos in the qualifier, which is reactively play around what their opponents are doing. Wolves going for these solo catches, and Millenium with their double teleport, their ability to cross the map pretty quickly. They're just saying, okay, well, we can turn these fights. As long as we don't die right at the beginning, we can actually turn these engages. Like, again, they've put damage down onto Troven. Much more damage than Copenhagen Wolves just put out with 4 people.
Really just well played by Millenium. They find advantages in places that other teams don't usually find them. And it's kind of weird to play around or flash over the wall. Troven will sidestep very nicely, but Hanshammer should be able to follow up with a kill. That was 2 flashes burned for that one. But a kill is a kill, and Millenium usually do find pressure off taking small advantages. Maybe they can make something happen in the mid lane now.
Well, where we may see that come into effect now is if Pinoy is able to just get free auto attacks down without flash. Very difficult to break the auto attack radius of a Caitlyn as she's chasing you down, especially if she can manage to get a red buff. Oh, binding onto Soren.
Ultimate comes in, and there's the bullet time. Joko looking for the follow-up. Doesn't quite kill him. Wicked now comes in and knocks up Pretty with a Keeper's Verdict. He has not used the ultimate yet, but now Wicked jumps in. At last, a possible moment, baits him with the wild growth, and Joko, he's not going to go down. He already has the spell shield coming up, and now Kaze, once again, I feel like we saw this last game, is just going deep. This time will be shut down by Soren, but of course Masterwork is there, so he's going to land the binding on you. Spear does not connect onto anyone from Millenium, and that is another inner turret going down with a 4-for-1.
Oh, it may not be done yet. They're looking to push, but at first glance, oh, Joko.
Troven wants it.
I feel like Wicked actually helped Pretty with that ultimate, making him untargetable under the tower. Oh, they bait him onto Joko.
The heel bait, man. Track the summoners.
Whew.
To be fair, that was the second to last summoner from Millenium. But
is their bag of tricks empty? Nope, I don't think so. Right, that was a long, extended fight, and it all comes from that first binding. So Hanshammer gets his ult, pretty much free reign onto Soren until Sir Nuxalot kites back. Joko couldn't quite connect with the collateral damage to finish off Soren, so that's what extends the fight. You can see Wicked. The tower actually died, so he didn't help Pretty out that much. That timing was what I wanted to double check on, and we got our answer on that one. Kaze, once again, diving into the tower. I mean, he's even fine that Soren picks him off there, because the rest of the team fight is already a done deal. That's already Millenium coming out ahead.
So far ahead now, like over 10,000 gold. That's all over the last like 5 minutes. Like Copenhagen Wolves had the advantage in the early game. Absolutely insane.
I think it's very telling of the level that Millenium are at compared to the other challenger teams, when you can see that they're not only able to play while ahead, which, you know, is typically easier, but also from behind when it comes into the early game. Like, they weren't ahead in this early game. Pinoy was heavily up, but now he's just kind of having to run to his base because there's a Fiora that's chasing him down, and Copenhagen Wolves are now firmly on the back foot. And it's all from Millenium turning this game around off a couple of reactive plays.
Kaze's flash just came up, so next time that happens, he will kill Pinoy. There is no question about it. Pinoy, that was actually a really good timing flash from him. He did it just as the lunge was going to connect. So because it didn't connect, it didn't give him the cooldown reduction, so he couldn't stay on top of him. But now Nuxalot is coming in for Troven, with Troven. And Joko is just so tanky. He's picked up his core with Moore and Sterax, meaning you just straight up cannot be bursted. And once you have the lifeline passive coming in from Moore as well, you just get all of your health back. You just go to a camp and just farm, and then have full health again.
That passive is it's pretty strong. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, Keeper's Verdict.
Here, stop
very much.
Ah, thanks. I didn't even have to quick draw.
I mean, it was funny, but like that highlights a problem in this game. Wicked's Keeper's Verdicts have been very hit and miss, and mostly miss in this game.
I mean, there are only 2 options with it. I guess there's hit, miss, or hold.
Very
it's like
true.
a game show.
Well, he didn't pick the right one on this one. Kaze will blow up Troven. He's actually just going 2v5. He dies, but it looked awesome for a small while. Masterwork looking for the disengage as Pretty comes in as well. The two AD carries are on Baron. Ultimate coming across Handsauer. Oh, this is intense. They should be able to pick it up though with the smite as Wicked comes in. Nuxalot following after, but they just walked right into a bullet time. And Masterwork is trying to land one last binding to line someone up.
You
It's
got
gonna be on
Pinoy.
Pinoy.
Oh.
3-1, and now the chase continues. Handsauer sped up with the Whimsy. He'll be chasing onto Nuxalot. One more auto attack over the wall, but no vision, unfortunately. Timing out from the red buff, not quite enough. But now with the siege coming in from the mid lane, Millenium almost certainly will pick up the win.
Oh man, if there was one hope left for Copenhagen Wolves, and that was their Fed Caitlyn on Pinoy, and one binding pretty much is ending this game. They had the Baron buff and were probably going to push pretty quickly anyway, but that is going to be the end of it.
Pinoy, you were the chosen one, and Millenium now in this 1 versus a lot. They're just going to kill the Nexus. They don't even go for kills in this one. They just won the 2-0. Millenium stay undefeated.
Whew. You look at the challenger roster right now, and we talked about how, you know, maybe the likes of Copenhagen Wolves were a step up on some of the middle of the pack teams we had last split. The same with you know, the likes of Humor are definitely, you know, another team that that are looking to be that. But Millenium, they look more dominant in this split than Origin looked in their split when they were in Challenger. Spring split 2015, Origin were dominant, were very good, but had some long games. Yes, the meta has changed, but Millenium are looking very clean and very crisp. However, there is a big difference between Millenium and a World semi-final team, so I'm not ready to write that check yet. Just want to put it out there, when you look at Challenger performances alone, there is a comparison to be made in Challenger.
Yes, the Challenger comparison to Challenger Origin.
Yes.
And Origin, what they didn't have was team play. They were a bunch of very, very strong individual players who were just destroying everyone before the game really got going. And then you had these longer games as they tried to close out games. Now Millenium have all of that. They have the full package.
It does now allow you to look forward, though, with the team, right? Because when we saw Origin in Challenger, they had their issues. There were games they got stalled in, but Origin went away and worked on a lot of their issues there. I now am very interested, very intrigued to see what happens with Millenium given time. If they stick together with the same roster, with the support, it makes you wonder, where is the skill cap here for a team? Because I don't think you can really judge that until you've had a team that's been tested. I don't feel like Millenium have really been tested outside of the Renegades, Banditos games, and that was only the early game looked shaky for Millenium, and they seem to have shored that up here.
That was almost compositional as well. Because like the way the early games were, if you fall behind with like, a composition that the Renegades Banditos were running, then, you know, like you shouldn't run a composition in the first place. They had enough skill to make it work in the early game, but then couldn't follow up. And it's true, like when you have a team like Millenium were doing now, undefeated, same with like Fnatic when they went 18-0, they never really got tested until they had that string of just going up against all the strongest teams. And when we were interviewing them, you know, they were saying like, now we're actually learning stuff as we go against these harder teams. Still picking up the wins, by the way. But then they're not, you know, they weren't tested until that point, and then they got better, and then they developed into playoffs, and then, you know, beyond, and that's what turned them into such a good team at the end.
So I don't have final confirmation on that, but I think a third 2-0 win here almost certainly gives Millenium a spot in playoffs no matter what happens. I would have to go and double check, because if SK and Maus do win all of their games, again, have to check scheduling, they can catch up to 9 points, but I think with the results shuffling around, Millenium are almost definitely in the playoffs.
Correct. It will actually depend on like the next 2 games today to actually determine that one, so that'll be very interesting. It
will be. But for Millenium, it seems to be more of the same. For Wolves, glimpses of what we've seen in their wins. The Pinoy looking very strong in Game 2. A lot of that was because of the matchup, but still knowing how to pressure that is the other half of it. Is you can have a good matchup, but if you don't actually execute properly, it was good. Troven had a good Game 1. Decent Game 2, was in the right position multiple times for counter ganks and the engages bot lane. So Wolves is still looking pretty strong, just not as strong as Millenium.
I mean, that's it, really. Just not as strong as Millenium, but when you put them up against Inspire, against SK, against some of the bottom teams in the middle of the pack, they usually perform really, really well because they outclass them. And usually from the advantage they had in the early game, they'll be able to snowball that, close out the game, fine. But then Millenium were able to stop them, stall them, take a fight, and then snowball on top of that, which is just like, you know, there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, talking about AD carry once again, Pinoy, he was also forced onto like a B tier AD carry as well because like they forced a lot of bans on him in Champion Select. Then went with the Caitlyn. Then still had a good game against Misfortune against a bot lane who's just been doing incredibly well against everyone else. So yeah, I mean, still props to Pinoy. Like you put them against the rest of the teams that they have remaining in their schedule, and I think they'll do fine. Like most likely going to see Copenhagen Wolves in playoffs as well.
I do feel, going back to something we talked about earlier, Sir Nukes-A-Lot this week didn't have as good a week. I'm not willing yet to say because it wasn't on Trundle, because I still feel like the guy has, a lot to give. We've seen a lot of decent plays, but we've also now seen a couple of weird engages. To be honest, that was a lot of what was just creeping into the play from the Wolves. Like the ult out of the bush where he walked out and showed himself and was like, surprise! Ah, no, it's a Braum ult. The same with like Wicked's ults from Poppy. There were just misplays on some key abilities from the Wolves. And it made it so much more difficult for them. Like, if you don't have those abilities hitting or even available, how do you ever make team fights work or even skirmishes?
Yeah, actually, that bot lane trade was actually so funny with Nukes-A-Lot when he walked out of the bush, and it was just like you could freeze frame it, and then it was just like one of those games with multiple choice with like causation stuff, and it's just like, do you A, go for ultimate, B, Winter's Bite, or walk up and hit them?
I feel
and
like
he was just like, oh, let's go.
I feel like ult is almost never the good option there, unless it's out of Fog of War. And even then, you'd expect a decent Morgana like Masterwork to be able to just reaction shield. It is tough, but I kind of would expect it. So I don't know. I think you got to try and bait that Black Shield out first. You've got to throw out Winter's Bite or something. Maybe he thought it was baited out. Maybe it was like right as the cooldown
who would
went.
ultimate out of the bush? It's just
a
like,
warning.
So the ultimate mind games. It was just like you didn't think I would do that, but yeah. Unfortunately, red. But either way.
Oh dear, it was a funny situation, circumstance. You're being.
What?
Your inability to talk has now like crossed the desk.
I know, I've lost it, so it's just onto you. I just passed it over. Perfect. Now you just need to meet someone else and then pass it over to someone else. Maybe not Masterwork, as you're about to talk to him. So we're going to get that interview up very shortly. Hello, Masterwork. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm fine, thank you.
Well, it was a very impressive win to start off the day. And just to start off, how did you find that game? Because it looked like Copenhagen Wolves versus the other teams you've been against tested you a little more. How did you see it from your perspective?
From both games?
Yes, from both games.
To be honest, we struggled early games, pretty much at the bot lane, and we just, in the end, we just managed to just stall the games and don't give them too much. And we tried to go for the objectives like Drake and Herald, and luckily we managed to catch them a lot of times, and we just go in and we just get an advantage really easily against them. And I think if they if they practiced a bit more, they would know that we can play like this. So yeah, I expected it to be a bit harder, but they still played pretty well.
It seems like yourself and Hans Sammer in the bottom lane get a lot of bans and attention towards you. I mean, game 1 you had supports banned, AD carries banned against you in game 2. How does that affect you guys? Because you don't seem too bothered. You seem to have big champion pools.
To be honest, I take it as a compliment. They fear our champions. So basically, they banned 2 of my champions the first game, but they can't outban me. So I can play way more than these 2 champions, and I don't think they know this. So I just think they feared these champions a lot, and we just take all the champions, and it's no problem for us.
Well, it's interesting you're talking about your champion pool there. So far, we've seen a bunch of different champions from you, but when do you choose to go for like something different? Because you generally default to like an Alistar or Morgana when it's up. We saw that one Thresh game from you, which was actually banned out in game 1. So when would you pick like a Thresh? When would you pick up like a Trundle, for example? Because so far, we've loved seeing on Thresh. You basically made a highlight reel the first time you played it.
Okay, well, to be honest, it depends on what AD carry we're going to pick. But most of the times, Thresh and Morgana works with comps our coach is building. And well, to be honest, we don't need more than these champions. Like, they are the champions I'm most comfortable with. And we don't really have a situation where we really need a change in the supports.
Seems Pretty straightforward, to be honest. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But one last question for you, Masterwork.
Right.
Millenium are a team with a team house. You know, you guys have got a lot of support. Is that the key difference between you guys and why you're so good and compared to the other challenger teams, or is there something that maybe we can't see? Is it the way you work together, perhaps?
Well, a gaming house gives us a great advantage, to be honest. Without the gaming house, two of our players would have huge internet issues. And even besides that, we just build up a great synergy. And for our coach, it's just way easier to explain things and to understand what we need to learn. So yeah, it's really good for us.
Well, so far it's really just been coming together, undefeated so far. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us, Masterwork, and congratulations once again on the win. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, thank you.
Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And very confident words, just in general from Masterwork.
But who can blame him? I mean, like he's got the proof to back it up, and yeah, can't really ban him out. Talking about like so many bans being thrown towards him doesn't really faze him. He's got the champion pool. So.
I mean, they played Draven, they played Vayne.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It clearly doesn't faze Hans Sama either. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll take this.
But it's cool to see like the organization behind them as well, because I know them specifically as a team. They had a gaming house even before in the qualifiers, and they were all together. And even in the qualifiers, looked so strong. So just even moving forward, having the infrastructure there is really important, and it's just great to see more challenger teams taking that approach. Anyway, with match 1 in the books, we're going to set up for our next series between SK Gaming and Inspire Esports. Stay 5, everyone. We'll be back in a minute.